Welcome back to Utility Mode, where performance meets real life. I'm Sophie Curtin, elite rugby league athlete, sports nutritionist and student dietitian. Today we're looking back at the 2025 NRLW season, a season that showed us just how far the women's game has come. From the return of the Warriors to the competition, to standout individual performances, season-defining injuries, pregnancies and some of the most competitive football we've seen in the NRLW. There was no shortage of storylines. Joining me today is a player who experienced it all from inside the competition. We'll be discussing what it really looked like behind the scenes, the teams and players that impressed us the most, the challenges that shaped the season, and where the game is heading next. We'll cover some of the biggest games of the year, impact of injuries and player availabilities, and the rise of professionalism across the league, and what clubs need to take it to the next level. NRL just isn't growing anymore. It's evolving. The standards are higher, the talent pool is deeper, and the expectations on athletes have never been greater. So let's take a review at the season that was, celebrate with the players and teams that made it memorable, and unpack what it means for the future of the women's game. But before talking about the teams, I want to let Emily introduce herself.
Hey guys, I'm Emily Curtin. I recently played with the Warriors in the NRLW competition last year, where played 6 games and then unfortunately did my ACL. So at the moment, I'm currently rehabbing that, coming back from that, hoping to get back out there soon.
As you said, you played 6 games for the Warriors in the 2025 NRLW season. Did you feel that it was a faster, more physical game compared to previous seasons that you've played?
Yeah, definitely. I think the game's obviously growing every year. Better players, better better attack and stuff like that. It's actually getting looked into a lot deeper now. So it was definitely different from the previous years that I've played, but it's also still growing and it's still going to become faster, become more physical. Yeah.
And I guess, as you said, that it's becoming more physical, it's becoming more faster and more developed. Do you think that that's because players that are entering the NRLW now are just more prepared than previous players or previous generations of players?
Yes, definitely. Obviously, most teams have pathways nowadays, so girls are learning from a young age and not just getting thrown into the deep end when they turn 18, 19 and never playing before, now that they've got the Lisa Fiola, Tasha Gale, Harvey Normans and then NRLW. There's a pathways at most clubs now to play from a young age and learn the basic skills then and not have to learn them later on in life.
And compared to your first season of NRLW in 2021 with Parramatta, how have you found that the professionalism in both the players, the staff and the resources or preparation has changed?
Oh yeah, it's grown massively. Obviously 2021 was a COVID year. We weren't able to do as many things. The game got pushed back quite a few times to ensure that we still got to play and still had the competition. And now it's obviously a longer competition. There's more teams. There's more work going in behind the scenes. There's more money going into it, making revenue off that, obviously. Clubs are putting more into it, knowing that it is growing and it's still going to grow. So it's definitely grown professionally inside and out.
That's great to hear. And I guess some key stats that probably reflect the change in professionalism and the change in the growth and development of the game is that in 2025, we saw nearly 300 players represent the 12 different NRLW teams in 2025. So I believe there was 299 players that represented the 12 different clubs, and 82 of those players made their NRLW debut in 2025. And I'm sure you can attest to some of the girls at the Warriors team that made their debut compared to, some of the girls we played with previously that have potentially made their debut earlier, and how, the skill difference compares.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we had quite a few girls come over from rugby as well, so bringing their skills as well across to rugby league and showing that and how professional rugby is as well, bringing that professionalism over as well. And it's saying that the young girls that are coming through for debuting and stuff like that, they're at that next level as well. They're not just getting thrown in and hoping for the best. We know we train with them. They can take the physicality. They can show up on game day ready to go when they get that call up. So it's definitely grown massively.
Yeah, awesome. And then in the same thing in terms of, the the talent pool across the teams, I definitely feel like it might have been a little bit uneven in terms of the players that made their debut last season between the teams. What do you think, I guess, is the big indicator, or what do you think, I guess, differentiates the top and the bottom teams, and I guess why the gap potentially might be, I guess, the biggest gap between the top and the bottom teams?
I definitely think experience. Obviously, the new clubs that have come in didn't go as well as they would have wanted the last year, having those teams come in. Obviously, the girls don't know each other all coming in. Everyone's learning something new. Like, it's a whole new system. It's a whole new coaching staff, whole new players needing to get used to all of that. Haven't done a pre-season together. And the clubs are still all learning how to work through that and get those 100% with like timings and stuff like that, with training, with game days. Whereas obviously the clubs that have been there since day one, they've had 5-6 years experience.
Or even longer. It's probably closer to 7 or 8 now.
Yeah. But yeah, they've obviously got the experience. They know what it's like. They know how it's run. So they just, keep going up from where they went the previous year. And obviously the teams that came in last year will do the same thing this year. They'll just build off what they had last year and it'll get better. The gap will close.
Yeah, and I guess for those who don't know, the teams that came in last year in the 2025 competition were the New Zealand One Warriors and the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs in the NRLW. So previously the Warriors had a team in the original 4 NRLW teams, I believe, in 2018. But because of COVID in 2020/2021, they had to withdraw from the competition. So they re-entered in 2025 after originally being in the competition earlier on. But as you said, new players, new staff, new expectations, new combinations, new everything basically. And then I guess
also on that, like, travel as well, with New Zealand obviously being international, it's like you got to be at the airport earlier, you got to get used to that, and the time difference as well. Even though it is only 2 hours, it makes a massive difference. Like, you'd be playing at 5 o'clock in Sydney and at 7 o'clock at home in New Zealand. So all the girls are got to get used to the timing and making sure you're arriving early enough, giving enough time and preparation for the teams.
Yeah, and we spoke about obviously the gap between the teams and teams like the Warriors or the Bulldogs who just came into the competition. As you said, they're all kind of starting again. A lot of the players that are coming through the pathway have either never played in the NRLW or quite inexperienced. But you look at teams like the Broncos who weren't just the premiers from last year. I guess they've kind of continued to reinforce their their position as the benchmark of the NRLW, having won multiple premierships now. Their 4th premiership, so they won in 2018, 2019 and 2020, so the first 3 years of NRLW, and then again in 2025. Despite having, I guess, not won the premiership, they were always finals contenders. And I guess from your perspective, having, I guess, played against them previously, and I just kind of knowing, I guess, footy well, what do you think their strong points are, and why do you think that they are such a successful club in the NRLW?
Yeah, no, they're definitely one of the top teams to beat. You always know when you play them that it's going to be a tough game. They stick to their game plan. They've had the same game plan since day one, and it works for them. Clearly, they've won 4 premierships from it. So, I think it's just knowing their system and knowing what they need to do, and that gets passed down from Princey through the trainers into the girls, and then the leaders as well on the field. They got Tamika Upton. They had Tamika Upton, Ali Brigginshaw, Julie Robinson. All those 3 girls are massive leaders in the club. And it's going to be, I think, a big shock next year as well once Ali retires. All her experiences there is now gone, but I'm sure she'll still be involved in the club somewhere and be in the coaching.
Yeah, definitely. And there's other players there as well. You've got a lot of their middles that have been around for a very long time. Shanae Zolka, who's just left as well, another very experienced outside back for the team. And their key players have got all of the big game experience, whether it's Origin, whether it's NRLW finals, whether it's international games. They're all very strong leaders, both in their performance and obviously, I guess, in the way that they bring their team together. And as you said, Princey being the coach, having played NRL himself for quite a long time and being in that key half position, he's able to kind of influenced the team through Ali, and having, I guess, as you said, her experience. And yeah, there will definitely be, I think, probably a shock to the system once she retires, and having seen kind of Gail having left this season as well, it'll be definitely interesting to see how they handle that. But I think looking at stats, like their key players are unbelievable. Like if we look at Tamika Upton, she won the Dally M in 2025. She had 20 tries in 11 rounds and then 3 games of finals with 14 try assists. Unbelievable. And they're definitely, all of their key players in their spine play a massive role into why they're so successful. So it makes sense as to why they're so hard to beat. But I think the talent, the systems that they've got from the beginning of the NRLW, and then the culture that they built with such a consistent team is probably, a good summary as to why they're so successful.
Yes, definitely.
And then looking at the other finalist teams, last year we had Titans, Newcastle, Roosters, Cowboys, and Sharkies. What did you think about those teams, and I guess kind of where they stood in the competition?
Yeah, so we played Roosters round 1, and obviously being the first game coming back into the competition, had one, like obviously the year before they did pretty well, so coming up with them round 1 was tough, but it was great for us to know where we were at coming into that as well. But they've got strike players all across the board. They've got Isabelle Kelly in the centres, Jess Surgis in the centres. They've got Olivia Koenig up the middle, Keely Davis. They've got Jocelyn Kelleher. All those girls, they bring so much experience and knowledge in the game, and I think that drives them across the competition. They're always in final contentions, whether or not they make grand final or not. They're always up there. You know, it's always going to be a hard game, and I feel like that's with every club at the moment. Obviously, there's some games that are not as high quality, but the games are still good. It's always a tough game. It's never an easy game.
And I guess it's kind of shown over the last couple of years in NRLW that the differences in scores, or the score ranges, have been much smaller, and they've been more competitive. And as you said, between the top and the bottom teams, there have been a couple of blowouts, but I think considering the improvement over the last few years, those ranges have gotten quite smaller, and as I said, much more competitive and much more close from the top and the bottom of the ladder. And with the Roosters being the minor premiers last year, you guys having them up round 1 with no trial under your belt, and obviously people that have played before know that no amount of fitness or training that you do in pre-season kind of compares you for the game fitness, and having no trial under your belt, plus having to travel to Sydney, it being your first game, you're building combinations. I think you guys did relatively well, and I don't think that the score reflected how close the game actually was. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was, we were all saying, like, it's a perfect game to start to see where you're at coming into the competition against the minor premiers from the previous year. So, we knew where we were at from that point, and we just got better from there on.
And did you have any, I guess massive takeaways from that game? Like, what were the positives coming out from that game? As I said, there was no trials. It's the club's first game in the NRLW in many years. Completely new squad, completely new coaching staff, having travelled. What do you think was the biggest takeaway from that game for, I guess, you personally, as well as the squad as a whole?
I think the squad as a whole was more able to show what we were capable of, with not having obviously played together before, a whole new system, learning everything. And then for myself, just knowing that the work we did in the pre-season was good enough to get us to where we needed to be. Coming up against the likes of those girls, I know like where I need to be at now, obviously coming into it.
Yeah, and I mean, with the Roosters looking at their squad, they're similar to Broncos. They've had such a consistent squad over the last few years. The longer that they play together, both at club and in the rep series, they just build stronger combinations and they get used to each other. And so kind of knowing in the back of their head where their player next to them is going to be and what they're going to do, whereas you guys were obviously completely, foreign to each other. to an extent? I know you had some experience playing with some of those girls. Did you want to, I guess, kind of talk through that and how you knew some of the players and where you'd played with them previously?
Yeah, so I knew quite a few of the girls when I moved over there. I'd played with Uppy Nichols at the Titans. When I was at Parramatta, I played with a couple girls there as well. Also, Hadata Butler. She's, I've known her for a while now, so going over there and knowing that there were some girls that I already knew was massive for me. They basically helped me throughout the whole season, and they were always there. They knew what was going on and stuff like that, so I was always able to go to them as well. They were a part of the leadership group, so always keeping in chat with them, and also learning about all the new girls there as well. Going over, it's massive about culture over there. That's their main thing. They learn about culture. It's one team. Everyone's together. We went down to the marae, spent a weekend there learning about the culture and I guess learning more about each other personally as well, so that we knew when we went out on the field that our sister next to us was going to be there no matter what. But yeah, just to be able to play again, play and train again with some of those girls, it was great. The leadership of Hadata, the leadership of Uppy, the leadership of Maya Hilmoana, and a few other girls, and obviously having Michaela Blyde come over from Union, Taisha Ekanasio come over as well, and Petu Maliepo coming over from Rugby Union. Just the skills and professionalism that they brought over to us girls just made everyone way better.
Yeah, and I mean, it's for those who have never played rugby league or even potentially at a new level, at a high level, going to a new club is frightening, and particularly having to move overseas
Very
from
daunting.
Australia. Yeah, there's lots, I guess, to kind of take into consideration in that, and so having, I guess, some familiar faces there makes it a little bit easier. Speaking of difficult things, I know you didn't guys make the finals, but versing some of the other top teams like the Knights, I know the Titans had a bit of a slow start, but they ended up kind of, in that top six, the Sharks, the Cowboys, even Eels kind of pushing towards that. How did you find yourselves competing or comparing against some of those higher teams in the last season?
I thought we did really well against those teams. It was, I think, injuries were one of our big things that we had to deal with. We had quite a few injuries, and we hadn't really gotten used to the travelling as well. It's a 4-hour flight from Sydney to New Zealand, so getting used to that, and obviously some of those girls had never travelled for games before, let alone flying to a different country as well. But I think we, as a team, did really well against those top-end teams. We were always in the fight until the end, no matter the scoreline. We were always confident in what we were doing, and we knew if we kept at it, we could win the game. It was just, injuries, simple errors and stuff like that, but all of those are fixable, and you can't really help what happens with injuries, so it's next player up mentality.
Yeah, and you guys definitely did have that throughout the whole season. Obviously, you mentioned yourself doing your ACL. There are a couple of other big injuries and, I guess, player availability issues at the Warriors. And how did you find that, I guess, dealing with Maya Hill announcing her pregnancy, and then obviously there was another pregnancy that kind of came out after pre-season that was a little bit unexpected, and dealing with injuries to yourself, injuries to Trish with her hemi halfway through the season. You had players playing out of position, and how did you guys kind of handle that, and what do you think prepared you guys for that?
Yeah, that was obviously a rough one. Myself doing my ACL at training prior to a couple of days before game day. That was rough. As soon as it happened, I knew, and I was like, oh, all right, now's the time. I just got to move on and help those who now have to stand up and play my position. So that sort of took my mind off my injury, knowing that I wanted to help the team get us as far as we could in the competition. Obviously having Maya announcing her pregnancy, so she was out for the whole season.
Obviously that was quite early notice, so you guys were able to plan for that in advance, but I guess speak about potentially some of the other pregnancies within the squad.
And then Minnie, Michaela, she obviously announced her pregnancy halfway through the season. One day she played and then we didn't see her for a couple of weeks. We were told she needed her own personal time, and we were all like, yep, no worries, that's fine. And then it kept, a few weeks later, same thing again, didn't really hear anything, and then she finally announced that she was pregnant. And but obviously not knowing in the back of our minds whether or not she was coming back during that time was hard, but also I think some people sort of had an inkling into what was going on, so could mentally prepare yourself.
Yeah, and as you said,
she's not going to come back. We can next man up mentality. Okay, someone's jumping in now, and they're more than likely going to be in that spot
for a while.
For most of the season.
And as you said, you're kind of torn because you're happy for them, but then you're also like, damn it, one of our most experienced players is now out for the rest of the season. Like as you said, the next man up mentality. You've got a player replacing a international rugby sevens player, one of the best to ever do it for in the world, but also for New Zealand, and then to come and have the honour of playing next to her on the field for the first few games, and then she just goes MIA. As you said, and there were some other really big injuries. You had middle forwards playing in the spine. I know Uppy went down for a couple of weeks there with an injury. You had obviously
both as well did a hammy, so we had girls just stepping up left, right and centre, playing out of positions.
Yeah, outside backs playing halves, middles playing halves. It was crazy, but you guys still did so well.
Yeah, and that's what was massive for us during the pre-season. We had girls training everywhere in case things like that happened. Obviously, there's going to be injuries in such a short season and such a short pre-season. You can't prepare as well as what the men are able to do with they've got such a long pre-season, whereas we've only got a 6-week pre-season. Yeah. So, we sort of had to try and prepare for that. Obviously, you never know what's going to happen and who's going to get injured, but some girls need to always be ready to jump up in whatever position they're told to get in, or what they need to learn, stuff like that. So, I think those girls, when they did get injured, all stepped up really well in helping that next person up, so that we could make it that next man up mentality.
And I mean, we spoke about previously, but the disruption to the combinations, having been such a new team and such a fresh team to go so well for the first few weeks and then lose some of your key players and then having players play out of position, things like that. So that would have been a massive disruption to the competition. Do you have any recollection of key moments throughout those games against those higher quality teams? So your Cronulla Sharks, your Knights, your Titans, your Cowboys, your Roosters, Brisbane, that kind of stood out for you where someone stepped up potentially that you may not have been expecting, or it was a game-changing moment, or they were playing out of position, or may have been juggling an injury that we didn't know about? Does any, kind of key moments stick out for you?
I think our Canberra game when we played down in Waikato, that was the week I did my ACL. Both Petu and Uppy were both out as well, so I think just having go down there playing, we played so well that game. We had girls playing in all wrong positions, but that was just a massive thing for us. We didn't get the win, but in our eyes, we still stuck to our game plan. It was just little things that didn't get us over the line. So, and I think obviously if we did have the experience of us three players who were out, I feel like we would have given them a run for their money.
Yeah, and I had that as one of the, big games and bigger moments throughout the entire season, and not just because you were at the Warriors, but you were playing with, I believe, 11 players at different times because you had a couple of sin bins during the game. If I'm correct, I remember there being two different sin bins. One was definitely one was definitely
and Taisha, so a middle and a outside back both.
And what did you think? I remember the first one was definitely worth a sin bin, but the second one was a little bit questionable as well. What did you think about the second sin bin that got put on you guys?
Yeah, look, obviously there's a lot coming in the game now, and especially last year with hip drops and stuff like that. So, and anyone that went down with an inkling that it was a hip drop, most of the time they went to the bin. Me personally, I didn't think it was worth a sin bin, but maybe just on report and penalty. But it is what, like, it happened, and you can't change what happened then. So you just got to learn from those mistakes and I guess move on. And obviously we had to bring girls up then the following week as well. So yeah.
No, I definitely thought it was one of your more resilient performances of the year, and to show how much it meant to everyone playing with two separate sin bins in a single game. As you said, many players in your spine and more of your experienced players in the middle as well, either being injured in the sin bin or just not playing at all, and then to be able to nearly come back and win against the Raiders was incredible feat. And as you said, you guys were playing for each other. It was more than just the person next to you. Obviously built more relationships and culture within the team. But how did you, I guess, kind of find yourselves playing against some of those more of the clubs that are rebuilding? So things like teams like the Tigers, the Bulldogs, St George. Obviously Canberra had a bit of a slow start, but they're very physical and have some really key players there. So how do you think you guys compared against some of the clubs that would say we're rebuilding?
I think we were at the top of that category. Obviously, we were a brand new team. We were obviously building our combinations and don't really have anything to go off.
Yeah.
So I think we did well against those teams. We also did well against the top teams as well. So I think it was just more for us who was playing at the time and injuries when they fell in the season and stuff like that. But I feel like the St George game, we had quite a few girls playing out of position, the same as the Canberra game. Obviously, we just spoke about that. I feel like we were at the top of that level and just below the top teams and the final teams. I think, if we didn't have those injuries, our season would have went a lot differently.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, looking at, I guess, some of your performances earlier on in the season, just starting to kind of build those relationships and get a little bit of momentum, and then obviously having a few injuries hit you guys and make, obviously, as you said, kind of consistencies within the squad quite hard to manage, and players playing out of position is not an easy feat, and obviously having, thankfully, some versatility within your squad was able to help you during those periods. But talk to me about your game against the Bulldogs, because I've been obviously with you playing it and watching you play for a very long time at a high level, and in my opinion, that was easily the best NRLW game I've seen you watch. I've seen you play, and thankfully I was there watching it live. And just tell me about your perspective of the game, because watching it from as an outsider in the rain, as you said, coming to their home territory as their home game, and haven't won all of your games leading up to that point, so that was kind of a pivotal moment, I think, for the team in the season. Give me a little bit of, I guess, insight from your end and how you felt in the game.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also feel like that was one of the best games that I played in the NRLW. I feel like I'd just gotten some momentum in with my edge, playing with the girls. And then, we'd obviously come off the back of a few losses coming into that game, and we knew that we had to go out there and put on a show as well, coming over, playing at their home ground, such a big stadium as well. I think we just knew what we had to do, and we had some Mungo and some of the forwards as well. So, it was raining, but we trained in that. We knew what the conditions were going to be like. We knew we could play footy in the rain. We trained in it every day over there, so we knew it was going to be easier for us than it was going to be for them. And we just stuck to our structure and played our game, didn't fall to their game. And I feel like I just took control and got us to where we needed to get to, and then being able to finish a few of those sets off with a couple tries, off kicks and stuff like that as well. Something that we all worked on in the pre-season. Definitely showed that we had been working on it, and myself that I'd been working on it. I definitely enjoyed that game, and felt pretty good after as well, knowing obviously we'd won, and then being back home here in Sydney. All my family was there, so it was good to see them and play such a important role in that game and play so well as well.
Yeah, I definitely think the kicking was a massive part of, I guess, your contribution to that game and to the win. From memory, there was 3 or 4 short side plays where you either put a kick in, or just had a cut out ball or whatever shape playing on that short side, and ended up going over quite a lot in that right hand corner. And then I remember where we were sitting in the stadium, we were obviously with all the other Warrior fans and supporters, and they were going absolutely crazy despite obviously not being at home. And it was such a cool atmosphere, I know.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like after the game, they were all singing the song. So we all went over, took photos in front of them.
Yeah, they had the drums and everything going. It was crazy.
Yeah, like that. I wish it was like that everywhere we went. Obviously, the Warriors fans are massive all over Australia, and over there it's huge.
Yeah, and I mean, typically you see the doggies are kind of like that. They're very animated with their support, and as you said, they almost always have the drums, and people are very intense in terms of their passion for the club. And I think Warriors are probably up there with the same. How did you find that your reception at home with the Warriors fans, being, I guess, the returning NRLW team? And obviously the Warriors had some recent success, and they were selling out stadiums week in, week out at home in the last couple of seasons. And how do you feel like they kind of took the women's team in?
Yeah, it was. We had massive crowds at our games at home. We played quite a few games before the men, so people were coming in earlier to watch our games, which is what we wanted. Our very first game we had home, it was massive crowd there. We all got clapped onto the field by the players, staff, and people from the club, to show their respect and their support towards us coming back into the competition. But yeah, the support over there from the fans is massive. Like, it's something you want to experience. Yeah. Playing over there and even watching the men's game, obviously, they've had some pretty good... they've done pretty well over the last couple seasons, and selling out games every week that they have at home, it's massive, and the crowds are awesome.
And I mean, even to only get a little bit of a taste of it was unreal. I can't imagine obviously playing at, say, Mount Smart Stadium or whatever other home ground that you had in New Zealand, and coming out to an entire stadium just cheering you on and absolutely loving life. And I remember, again, we went and watched the Warriors game against Newcastle in Newcastle, and same thing, the men were playing before you guys, and there was a very, very close game. I remember Tanner Boyd kicked the penalty goal just before the end of the game to win, ended up missing it, and then there was then there was the try, and the stadium went crazy. Again, the drums were back out, people were screaming and singing and chanting, and it blew up and it erupted. And thankfully some of them hung around for the women's game as well to kind of continue and bring that energy. But I would love to be able to be a part of that, I guess, kind of on the inside. It's amazing even just being, I guess, kind of on the outside.
Yeah, and after such a massive win as well, like the crowd was still humming, so it was good for us to run out with all that energy. We definitely felt it, and it's something you want to experience.
Yeah, and I guess kind of looking at your season, how do you think you would have, again, we spoke about this before, you can never predict anything, and in a perfect world, if none of you had gotten injured and you'd made it through the season, where do you think you would have fallen within the ladder, or I guess kind of within the season?
I definitely think we would have made finals. So I definitely think we would have been in the top 6.
Yeah.
But obviously, unfortunately, injuries happened, and hopefully we do better this year and be in the top 6.
Yeah, do you think
on our way to finals?
Do you think that there were any players in your team, and it could be other teams as well, but do you think that there were any other standout players that are potentially underrated or didn't get enough credit, who you kind of saw, not necessarily the back end of things or the behind the scenes things, because obviously no one can see that. But in terms of their performances on game day, do you think that there were any players in your squad or players that you played against that didn't get the credit that they deserved?
Yeah, there was quite a few girls in our squad. I think were underrated. Ash Matapau, she come off the bench and started a game. She was a machine. She just ran over the top of people, made millions of tackles. Also another young one, Ivana Lauati'i, playing in that Bulldogs game as well. Just gets us up the field so well, and she's playing again this year, so I'm keen to see her play again. Tyra, she came in for Michaela.
Yep.
And I think she thrived when she came in. Obviously learning from the likes of Uppy, from Michaela as well, and playing outside Taisha as well. All that experience, I think she thrived as well.
I think in the women's game there's a select handful of players, and rightly so, that they're the face of NRLW and that they're easily the most experienced and the most well-known, which is fine. You know, the likes of Tamika, Upton, Isabelle Kelly, your South Wales, your Taryn Aikens, those kind of players, your Kezi Apps, Jess Surges, all of those players that have been around for quite a long time, Ali Brickenshaws, Lauren Brown, all of those players that we all know very, very well. Can you think of any other underrated players from other teams that you don't think get as much credit as they probably deserve?
I know Sala Togatuki from the Tigers. She's always been massive, full of energy, has a massive work rate. Is always going 100 miles an hour. Liv Koenig, she's massive. Abby Church, Parramatta, she's definitely come through and grown a lot since 2021 when she was at Para and I played with her. She's come leaps and bounds from then to now, and obviously being in the New South Wales team as well, she's thrives there. Taylor Preston, massive one for the Bulldogs.
She's been playing really well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's heaps. We could go on and on and on. As we spoke about, there was 300 or nearly 300 players who represented the 12 different NRLW clubs, and 82 of those being debutants this year. So there's always new talent that's coming through. We even see some of the key stats throughout the season show this. So it was, where do we find it? Shalom Sawasayu. I apologise if I butchered that. But, a young Brisbane player ended up, I think, getting Rookie of the Year or Player of the Year at Brisbane as well, and having a 95 tackle breaks in a single season. As I said, quite a young player, followed by Julia Robinson with 3 tackle breaks. So, you've got young players like that are coming through, and then to, be showing up players like Julia Robinson, who are some of those key players. Some other stats, you mentioned Liv Koenig, 725 run metres. I believe that was the highest run metres of any player, and her being a middle.
A middle, yep.
And then you've got Tiana Penatani-Gray, who had 719. Again, one of those higher tier teams with the Sharks and a more experienced player. We also had some other interesting stats. So we had Sienna Lofapo from Titans with 23 offloads, with the second most. And then Shania Lendl from the Dragons with 28. So again, some familiar faces there, but still very new in comparison to some of these other really renowned players. 2 halfbacks here with line engagements. We see Rachel Pearson with 68, followed closely by Jessie Southwell with 65. Definitely lots of up-and-coming talent. And, there are some squads this season going into 2026 that are very, very, very young and have quite a lot of players that are coming through who have never played or have only played a handful of games. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare and how it's kind of evenly balanced across the squads. But if you had to pick someone as a Player of the Year in 2025, who would you have picked?
There's a few players that
rattle them off.
Come to mind. You've got your Isabelle Kelly. You got Ali Brigginshaw, Gail Broughton. I think Gail did really well at Brisbane last year. Obviously, they won the premiership. Mele Hufanga, she's a wrecking ball out in the centres.
That's a perfect word to describe her, actually.
Yeah, wrecking ball. Feel the...
Yeah, and we spoke about underrated players previously, but do you have any, I guess, young guns that you have seen coming through that you'd like to watch a little bit more closely going into 2026? It can be from the Warriors or from another NRLW team.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yep.
There's obviously a massive influx of young girls coming through, so I think with the pathways we have now, any player that does come in is going to thrive and do well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we spoke about, obviously, the standard of player coming in now is only going to get better, and it will, as you said, continue to get better. And we see that with, I guess, some of the big moments and the big games throughout the season. And because we're producing a better result, there's obviously more engagement, there's more fans, there's more growth in the game. I think we had a record attendance in the grand final with 46,288. We saw recently with the 2026 Origin, another record was broken there with viewership on 9. And then last year, I think there was a record broken for attendance in the women's game at the Origin. So again, it's incredible to see. There was some new records broken with field goals. I believe there was 2 in round 9 of 2025 last year, and 4 kicked across the entire season. So again, the skill, the anticipation, the growth, the media coverage is all improving. But if you had to pick your favourite moment or your most memorable moment from 2025, what would you say yours was?
I think mine definitely would be our win, our first win at home, our first game at home as well. The atmosphere, and obviously coming off the back of a loss in round 1, we went home and were able to put on a performance and win our second game against Para at home.
And speaking of wins, finished off the season nicely with a win in Sydney against the West Tigers. You want to talk to me a little bit about through that? You obviously got the opportunity to come home to Sydney to see some friends. Were injured, so you weren't obviously able to play in the game, but to be able to play against your old team and get the victory, what was that like?
Yeah, that was pretty good. Always love, obviously, play against your old team. But no, the girls knew that it was going to be the last game. We unfortunately weren't in finals contentions after a couple losses previous to that. So knowing that we were able to win our last game and then travel home and, obviously being able to fly over to Sydney, watch the game, see family as well, and then head back over and do all the formalities. It was, it was good to get the win in the last round. Yeah,
a nice way to kind of end the season and celebrate what was an amazing season, all things considered, and as you said, a little bit more bittersweet knowing who it was against. But looking, I guess, ahead into 2026, what do you think the competition needs, or where do you think where do you see the competition going in 2026 in terms of results and also, I guess, the competition and quality of the competition as a whole?
Obviously, teams being able to grow from last year. Obviously, we don't have any new teams this year. So I think the teams that did enter last year, the Warriors and the Bulldogs, they're able to grow and keep quite a few key players. Being able to obviously grow from that. Better squad depth, knowing that there's the pathways as well in New Zealand. They're trying to grow the pathways over there as well. So being able to not just have to pick from Sydney, so to say, they can pick girls coming through the pathways over there, and being able to train every now and again with the team as well, to try and make the transition from where they are playing to NRLW a lot easier, and getting to know all the girls and the plays and stuff like that to try and keep them all the same.
So there's obviously some consistency with the squad again this year, having retained a few players. So looking at, as you said, stronger pathways and transition from either New Zealand or Australia to go over there and go through their pathways. As you said, more squad depth, so whether that's training with them in pre-season, having some kind of development programs, which I've seen in the off-season that they have. Obviously, ideally, we'd love more money, a longer season, so more security, more full-time athletes. Again, that's only going to make the game a better quality. But in terms of 2026, who do you see taking away the competition? Obviously, the Brisbane and the Roosters are always up there, but I see the Warriors actually being a bit of a smoky for the 2026 season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. They've recruited well, gotten a few good players, so I think the combinations will work well and hopefully be at the top of the finals. So I definitely think Warriors will be up there.
And last question before we finish it off, who is the toughest player you've ever faced, whether at training or on the field? Who's the toughest player you've ever faced?
Hardest player to tackle? Probably Elsie Albert.
Yep.
Miller.
Yeah.
And
on an age especially.
Yeah. Isabelle Kelly and Jess Surgis.
Yeah. With
their speed, power, getting around you. Obviously, Tamika at the back, she's
pretty hard to tackle.
And like the likes of Bo as well, she's always quick on her feet and hard to get a hold of. So
cool. All right. Well, 2025 wasn't defined as or defined by a single team or player. As we saw, the whole team and the whole competition has improved and will continue to improve and increase the competition itself with more depth, with more professionalism and more talent. The gap between the good and the great is only going to continue getting smaller. But Em, thanks for coming on and jumping on today and talking through your experience in 2025. I'm sure you'll be back on in another couple episodes, but do you have anything for young girls that want to play NRLW one day? What would you, say to them, or what would your advice be to them?
Just keep working hard. The best part, make sure you have fun out there. Yeah, learn as much as you can, take in everything that gets said to you or thrown at you. Be that standout player. Go do that one thing different. And then, with the pathways now, hopefully we'll see quite a few young girls coming through and,
Awesome. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you guys for listening. That's another episode of Utility Mode brought to you by Sophie Curtin.